Hey everybody,
Hey.
Butch and Julieann Hartman here. Welcome to HARTbeat. Welcome to Healing Journeys today. And you can see we have a little
I know.
cartoon
Wait.
lion over
Yeah,
here.
he's like peeking his
Well,
head out a
that's
little bit.
Lenny the Lion from our new cartoon called the Garden Cartoon. It teaches your kids all about the Bible and Jesus Christ. So go to gardencartoon.com. It's a brand new cartoon we've made. You'll love it. You'll have peace of mind as a mom and a dad.
Yep.
And it'll really teach your kids the Word of God. You're going to love it. We have a Garden Children's Bible that I illustrated as well. So check that out. But
Yep.
today we're talking about your marriage and your relationship in a godly way, because a lot of people out there, we're all struggling. Seems like we're struggling. And I hate to use the word struggling, but that's just the word I thought of. But we're endeavoring to have a better relationship with not just the people around us, but most especially the people that we live with, whether it's a husband, wife, child, significant other, whoever. And how do we have the best relationship ever? We learn it through Jesus Christ. We learn that we're to die to ourselves and consider the other person's feelings way before our own. Now, that's a real tough thing to do sometimes, because when Jesus says, pray for your enemies, I'm not saying your spouse is your enemy, but
No.
when it's when there's an opposition, when there's an opposition to either how you want to do something or how somebody else wants to do something, if you don't agree with it, then you're going to oppose back, and you're just going to both be in opposition, and you're never going to get anything done. So Jesus is all about forgiveness. He's all about hearing out the other person. He's all about opening your heart. And we're trying to encourage that here on this channel. You know, we've been married going on 33 years this year. We just became grandparents. We have the most beautiful baby girl granddaughter who just showed up. We just became, she's the cutest thing. All you other grandparents out there, I hate to break it to you, we have the most beautiful grandchild.
Ours is the cutest.
Just so in case you were wondering, we have the most beautiful. But she is just a doll, and our hearts melt every time we see her. Picture of her. And thank goodness for FaceTime these days, because back when we were kids, you could call people, but being able to see them on video now is so incredible. So we're very grateful for that.
It was fun because this morning when I was FaceTiming with our daughter, and she put the phone down, and Coco just sat there and she stared in the phone. She could hear my voice.
Yeah.
I don't know if she could see so much, but she heard my voice, because even Carly was like, oh my gosh, she's like focused, like she's looking at you. So
yeah, so that's a great way for your grandkids to get to hear your voice.
Yeah.
And because again, here's what's great about that. This will really preach too. Your grandkids will know your voice, just like we're supposed to know Jesus's voice. Jesus says, my sheep hear my voice. What does that mean? That means you should know what Jesus sounds like. You should know his voice. Obviously, you know your wife's voice. You know your husband's voice. You know your child's voice. I remember when Carly was born 30 years ago, just about day one, hour one, when she would cry, I could hear her cry. I knew exactly which child she was amongst all the other kids in the nursery.
Yeah.
So it's a really wild instinctual thing that you're born with. You know the sound of your child. Jesus knows your voice, and you should know his. If you don't know his voice, what voice are you listening to? That's our question for you as part of our teaching today, is what voice do you listen to now?
Yeah.
Is it,
well, today we're talking about making time for making time. And that was not a typo. That was deliberate, meaning that we need to make time to be together. Just like when you need to make time to spend time with the Lord together so you can hear his voice. You know, people that say, I don't hear him, you know, it's like, oh, well, you hear him audibly or you don't, or all those, like, don't worry about how you hear him. Everybody should hear from the Lord. Your ears are not open if you're not. There's no way. He is talking to all of us.
And by the way, to some people do want to hear that audible voice, and they're waiting their whole life for it. Don't wait for that voice. You'll be waiting a long time. You know why? God doesn't want you to depend on that voice. Why do you think he wrote everything down in his Bible?
Well, he does want you to depend on the voice too.
Well, no, what I mean is he doesn't want you to depend on hearing the audible voice. A lot of people sit around, I'll know it's real when God audibly speaks to me. Well, God is speaking to you through his word, through the written word of the Lord. He wrote that word down to get it to you for a reason. And why did he do that? Because he wants to make sure you know what his wishes are for you, what his plans are for you,
what his will is for you,
what his will is for you, how much he loves you, how much he cherishes you. And that whole Bible is centered on his son, Jesus Christ. who gave his life for you.
Yeah.
Really, Butch, the Old Testament's about Jesus?
Yeah.
It absolutely is. Jesus is makes appearances all through the Bible. Maybe not physically as Jesus in the Old Testament, but everything in the Old Testament points to Jesus. And it really points to him in the New Testament, which is all the Jesus stories.
Right. So making time to make time would be, how do you make time in your marriage? Because, especially when you start having kids, you're just going all different directions. If there's kids in sports and theater and all that stuff, kind of like that's what we went through. And so, one kid would be doing one thing, the other would be doing another. And then the parents get together and there's no time because I'm exhausted, you're exhausted. And then day after day after day. So we're in a different position now. Our kids are grown. We're grandchildren. We have a grandchild.
Yeah, we have magic wands.
Yes, we are grandparents. Let me get that out. We are grandparents. And so, but we still are very busy people. So we find it at times that we don't even have time for each other. And you're like, wait a minute. You cannot be that busy. Talk about hearing from the Lord. The Lord did not tell you to do so many things that you can't even have time with your spouse.
We made an effort just recently, and in the last 10 days or so, we talked about it, and then we finally got around to doing it. It's like, we're going to put our phones down.
Turn them off
For at least an hour a night and just talk. And
no one can be on the phone.
As odd as that sounds, like, well, that sounds easy. Give it a try. See if you can do it. You might be one of those rare people out there these days that isn't attached to their phone, and that's wonderful. That's a great thing. But learn how to spend time with your spouse in another way then. You might not be attached to your phone, but are you guys spending time together?
Well, you might be attached to the TV too, or your laptop.
Might be attached to working out. You might be attached to something. But whatever you're attached to that's taking time away from your relationship with your significant other, your spouse especially, you need to make time for your spouse. And it might, for the last 2 nights, all we've done is sat down and just talked about the future. We laid in our bed, talked about a few things going on. Then last night we actually laid on the couch and next to each other, and we kind of passed out for 20 minutes. And so that was kind of nice. You actually set an alarm on your phone.
I did.
Had you not set that alarm, I don't think I would have woken up.
I don't either. But just that it was just no phones on. No, we were just talking about stuff that we're doing and things that we want to do and things that we, in the future and all that stuff. And so it was just nice. No obligation. Like, I don't know how you guys are, but, our phones pretty much tell us everything. And we're just Googling everything all the time and coming up with whatever, like, oh, how do you do that? I don't know. Google it, and, or like, I want to make this recipe, Google it. So, but we put everything away in the last couple of days. Like you said, we were talking about it, but it was really different the last couple of nights because I felt like there was more of an attachment. There wasn't something in between us that was taking the attention away because, hey, listen, we love getting videos and pictures of our granddaughter. And I'll get those all day long, which I love, but then you tend to be looking at your phone all the time too. And so we were like, just put them away, turn them off, so that we don't get tempted to go look at them. And so I think that's really important. So what can you do? You guys know your own schedule. You know how you are with, like, do we play with the kids after we have dinner? Do you have no kids yet? Like, whatever your schedule is, if you could talk to each other, not just one make the plan, but both of you make the plan of when would that be? When is a good time? Is that first thing in the morning? Is that the last thing at night? Whatever it might be, but make that choice together, come up with a plan together so that you are, you both are in agreement with it.
And we do understand too, if you have children, we understand schedules are very fluid. And we're not saying drop everything and leave your kids behind to spend time together. We understand everyone's got a different type of schedule, different type of life, but it will really be helpful to you when you can find some extra time, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes. If you do have kids running around, but she and I are by ourselves at home, we're empty nesters now. So we do have the time, we can do that.
Yeah.
And especially if you're in a situation like we're in, where you can do it, definitely do it. If you have children, it's different, but we had kids too. And there was times we could make time for each other while the kids were asleep, before the kids got up. we would meet for lunch during the day while we're out at work or whatever. So there are times you can do that with.
Yeah, it does help though when you schedule something, because when you schedule it together, then you're working towards something at night, and not just letting your kids, at 2 years old decide when they're going to sleep. It's like you've got to put your kids on some kind of a schedule at some point. Not a newborn like our little Coco right now. She's not going to be on a schedule, not for a while. But like 2, 3 years old, you need your kid to be on a schedule.
Well, great. What's great about though, my daughter Carly is tailor-made to be a mother, and her husband Levi is tailor-made to be a dad. They fell right into parenting perfectly.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
And Carly's got that baby she's got the baby on a schedule now. It'll of course will be altered and changed as the baby gets older, but
yeah,
she's very attentive as a mom, and she takes the mothering role very seriously.
Yep.
You should take everything with a relationship seriously. I'm not saying dramatically where it's got to be this dramatic thing, but if someone's in a relationship with you, that means there's another person involved, and the other person needs attention just like you need attention. The first thing the enemy is going to do to a relationship is try and ruin it. Why? Because you're weaker when you're by yourself, when you're isolated. He's going to try and make you resentful toward the other person. He's going to try and make you into a victim. Oh, that person's not treating me the way they should be treating me. He's going to try and make you have all kinds of reasons to want to get out of that relationship and shun everything. And believe me, I grew up in a family like this where everybody's relationships were always going up and down. Everything was always exploding for no reason that I could see as a kid. You're like, wow, what happened there? And it really just comes down to hurt feelings and people's emotions, people with no control, people with no checks and balances going on. And that's when we say making time for making time. You make time to spend time with each other. You make time to spend time with Jesus. And then through that time with him, you learn how to spend better time with your spouse. If you care, I mean, I'm not saying, oh, well, I don't care about my spouse. Well, that's a very sad attitude to have, because you should care about your spouse. For some reason, you guys are together and you've been together. And if you're both not in a great mood or feeling miserable or something, you need to look at why. Well, finances aren't what they need to be. Well, let's figure out why that is.
And that even though that
do it together.
That can put pressure on somebody, but it should draw you closer together. Instead of calling each other out saying, well, you spent money on this or you spent money on that. No, let's draw together because you're in this together. A lot of people have separate bank accounts, have separate living conditions at times. It's just weird, but you need to sleep together in the same bed. You need to have the same banking account. You need to have the same credit cards. You need to do things together as a couple. I know that everybody, is different and they were raised differently, and they're just probably a lot more following what their parents did. But we're telling you, though, that if you want to be as one, right, because you become one, a man and a woman get married, they become one, then you need to act as one in every other area of your life as well. And that's with finances and everything else. So that's something that you could work towards. It's like, well, we never done that before. We married 10 years. Work towards it. But it is, just think about it. It's like it's a closeness with your spouse that you really, and it's like it's on every area of your life that you guys are doing things together. And so, but that is really important, is to spend time together and just to talk about things, dumb things, fun things, things that don't matter, doing silly, dumb things. Sometimes we just take ourselves so seriously and we don't have fun anymore. And so it's time to have fun. It's time to, especially if you're older and your kids are like teenagers, you're like, man, you've worked hard.
But don't get to
enjoy your husband, enjoy your wife.
Yeah. And don't get to the point where you go, the grass is greener over there. How do you know the grass is greener? What movie have you been watching where you think you can do better than where you are right now? You're exactly where you need to be with your spouse. And why do I know this? Because you got together in the first place. It was certainly right at the beginning. And I know people grow and I know people change. And we're not saying to stay in an abusive relationship either. We will never advocate for staying in an abusive relationship ever.
No.
But we have had a lot of testimonies from people that we've counseled where there was abuse in the relationship. And then through the power of the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ, it got changed because both parties were willing to come to the table. We've been counseling a few people lately where there's just a lot of stuff that is happening or has happened in their relationship. And you see why relationships get strained.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know this was going on. That explains a lot. Or all of this happened in the past. That explains a lot. So yes, things have happened. It doesn't mean they need to continue to happen. And just because they've happened doesn't mean you have to dwell on them. That's the other thing we need to understand. Making time for making time. You make time for the future, not the past.
Right.
Now, if something in the past needs to be discussed to get it out in the open or whatever and get it on the table, that's one thing. But you don't wake up every day dwelling on how terrible things were,
Yeah.
because then you're going to miss out on all of the great things the way Jesus wants them to be and how great they are and how great they can be.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. He says, I come to give you life and have it more abundant and give it to you more abundantly. He wants us, I give you a future and a hope. Let not your heart be troubled. He says this over and over again. Even when they encounter angels in the Bible, the first thing the angel says is, fear not, don't be afraid.
Right.
Because it's, these people don't know what this is, and they drop to their knees and begin to worship this. And look at what you're worshiping too. Be careful what you're worshiping. Make sure you're worshiping the Lord Jesus and him alone.
Yeah.
Don't worship your job.
Yeah.
Don't even worship your religion, quote unquote. I was having a conversation with someone earlier talking about some people that they knew that were one way a long time ago, wonderful, having a great life with Jesus. For some reason, they got caught up in this religious spirit. Now everything's miserable and sad. They're pointing their fingers at people, and they began to worship the wrong thing. So making time for making time, those moments with your spouse can really make a dent in those wrong belief systems. Like, what are you thinking these days? What are you feeling these days? Don't be afraid to talk to your spouse.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be just talking. You guys go for a drive, you go for a walk, you could go to the mall. Like, there's things that you can do. You can go out to dinner, you can do things, but just if the goal would be to spend at least, I know if you have little kids, that's probably not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Our hour is your 10 minutes, right? You can find maybe 10 minutes of just you two looking into each other's eyes and just talking or just staring, but just whatever it can. So you guys can it's like you're reconnecting to each other. And it's really important. I think that it's, I know that our relationship, it doesn't, when I say the word suffers, I don't mean like we have a bad relationship, but what it does is.
You're going to say the word suffers right now?
No, I'm saying that a relationship can suffer without having that kind of intimacy. And I'm not talking about sexual intimacy. I'm talking about just one-on-one, just talking.
Yeah.
Right. And so it can suffer, because I'll tell you why. Because it can grow exponentially with just having some time together. But you won't even realize how much the growth has been stunted because you haven't ever done it. And so think of it this way: what you can have in the future could be pretty amazing. You just have to start doing it. That's all. And again, I think that if you have small kids, your 10 minutes is worth an hour of time with parents that have older kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be like a sped up time. But we love you guys, and we're thankful that you all are here and that you are watching this platform, because this platform is pretty amazing. We've got some great stuff coming up.
Amen.
We've got Anna Ochal. She'll be up on Sunday as the journey. She was healed.
Say the name again.
Anna Ochal.
Anna Ochal.
Yeah, she had blood cancer, and so she was healed from that. So you'll love her story.
I love past tense. Had blood cancer.
Yeah.
No longer has it.
Yeah, and then we also have Jeff and Jessica Giamo. They are our guest teachers. They're doing a great job. And also we're going to the UK, and so we're excited because
that's not till
June, but we're really excited. If you guys all want to help out with that, we're going to go visit as many churches and as many places as we can while we're there, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. And we're excited because it's going to be awesome. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Healing Journeys Today.
Make time to make time.